Hey guys, this is Nathan and welcome to the Gaming Floor. Today in this Unturned map editor tutorial, I'm going to begin on the decoration aspect of these editor tutorials. So over the next couple weeks, I'm going to be doing these detail videos, and today I'm going to be focusing on detailing the inside of the house. So over here I've got, I think all of the houses. I'm not sure, I may be off one or two. But pretty much, the houses are pretty easy to find, and they're pretty standard when building a town. And just in your map, unless it's like a super nature map, you're really not gonna not have a house. Usually, houses are involved, even if they're like run down and stuff. So here we have all the houses, and today I'm going to be using house number 6 here as an example of how to decorate the inside of a house. Now, don't be overwhelmed. These are all the objects that you can potentially use inside a house. There's a crap ton of them, and as I go through decorating this house, probably in real time, I'll be explaining why I place them where and what it means to have all these options. So of course, as usual, when watching these videos, you guys obviously don't have to copy exactly what I do. I mean, this is obviously going to be stylized based on what I think is good, and so if you guys want to do your own thing, mix it up a bit, create, your own decoration styles, go ahead and do that. Whatever feels best for you is what you should do. So anyway, let's begin. And so I'm going to start with one of the most common rooms that you find in a house. Usually is in every single house because, it's just pretty common sense to have one, and that is the kitchen. So this group of objects right here is generally used in the kitchen. It includes counters, appliances, fridges, stove, oven, dishwasher. These are generally the appliances that you use. So I'm going to start placing some of these in here. And the reason I chose this house is because there's lots of room in it. It's large enough, but it's also not too large. So I may not use every single room in this house, but I should be able to fit every sort of part of the house in here. So I'm going to choose the wood style of counter because there's two types of counters, wood and metal, and I'm going to be placing the main part of this counter against this wall. Now, of course, how you lay out the room is totally up to you. There's many ways to do it. Not one is going to be the best either. It all depends on your map and what you want for it. So pretty much I'm going to use the Snapshot Transform Control B and Control N to move the counter there. Then I'm going to move that over. I'm going to paste another one, move that over, and I'm pretty much just going to create a nicely organized counter for our house. Now, as you can see, some of these counters are not completely in the ground, and I'm not sure exactly why they copied in that way, but I'm just going to have to move those up myself manually. Oh yeah, it's because I moved them down. So you do want to make sure that they're not inside of the floor. You probably want to see the bottoms of those cupboards. So also, it's hard sometimes to get these completely centered on the wall. So, after you're done, roughly center it, check either side, look at the gaps, make sure they're about the same. I think that is pretty good. And of course, you guys don't have to be perfect. I mean, you can try to be, but not many people are actually going to notice if it's not like perfect. So, it's not a big deal to stress over that. It's not worth spending that much time getting it just right. So, let's move on to fridges. So, there's two types, and there's also a cooler type. So, cooler is not usually used for a fridge, but you definitely could. So, that's why I added it in here. I'm not actually going to use this as a fridge. It's kind of weird. I've never seen a fridge that has a clear door, but it is laid out similarly to a fridge, so I'm just going to leave it as an option there. Maybe some of you guys hadn't actually seen that item or didn't know what it looked like, so maybe you could use that. So I'm just going to place the fridge here. I'm also going to leave enough room for the people to get inside the drawer there. It would be pretty unrealistic if I snugged it up real close. Now, I might not have arranged this completely perfectly or as well as I could have because I do have these two extra objects here, dishwasher and oven. And now these are not exactly standard to a kitchen. If I left it as this would work as a decent kitchen. I mean, you've got counters, you've got a sink area, and you've got a fridge. And this is pretty much all you need to be recognizable as a kitchen. But there are these two extra items, oven and dishwasher. So I'm going to try to place these in. I'm going to end up probably putting them against this wall. It may end up being a little awkward, but it won't be too bad. And, it'll work. and it's just good to maybe include all parts of the kitchen. Now, of course, you don't have to. If you've got space issues, don't make it super hard on yourselves trying to cram everything in. It's not worth it. As long as you get it looking about right where you want it, that's perfectly fine. So I can also use the same trick I use with these to line these up well. And I may move these closer to the door to maybe try to get them sort of centered on that little gap right there. So this is a pretty decent kitchen. Obviously there's some extra items here, and I'll start placing them down. We've got a toaster. Let's place it in this corner. It doesn't really matter where you place these. Truthfully, guys, these can be broken. Now that map destructibility is a thing, you can actually break all of these. So, they're not really going to affect much. I don't think they even have hitboxes for the player to run into. That is coffee number one. And so, yeah, it doesn't really matter that much. We also have a microwave here. This is actually a bit of a larger one, but I'll put it right here. And so yeah, you can walk through all of these, so it really is not going to mess up the flow of the map, and the player will probably just shoot these away and they'll just break, so it doesn't matter that much. Alright, so moving on to the next section of the house. So, another common section besides the kitchen is to have a dining area. And so pretty much what I have here is these sort of items for the dining area. I've got multiple types of chairs. Actually, the metal chair is not usually used, but of course, you can do whatever you want and use that if you want to. We've got table wood number 2, table wood number 1, chair wood number 2, and chair wood number 1. So usually these two tables are used. There are also these two tables here, table wood number 4 and number 3. Usually those are a little smaller, but now that you do have scalability as an option, you could scale them to whatever size you want and use those instead. That's always an option, and it's always cool to, be a little ingenious when creating these parts of your map. Always being creative is a good thing. So you can use whatever you want. I'm going to end up using table number 2 here, and pretty much it's usually a good idea to have the dining room close to the kitchen just because it makes sense. You take the food out of the kitchen, bring it directly to the table, and eat it. Um, that's pretty much the only reasoning behind that. Of course, you really don't have to, but generally that's how it's done. So I would suggest that. So I'm pretty much just going to put this table in the middle of this space here. It's not going to fill up the entire room. We're just going to have a couple chairs around it. And I'm going to use chair number 2. And usually I use the other chair type, but it is good to mix it up a bit and pretty much use whatever you like. So the quickest way to place these chairs actually is copy and paste it, and then press E and just move it directly where you want it to be in the future, and then rotate it to where you want it to be located, for the final step. So that's just a really quick way of placing those chairs, and there we go, we got a basic dining room setup. So, okay, besides the dining room, um, the next area that's pretty common to have in a house is sort of a lounge area or just sort of a hangout spot. And that's pretty much what the majority of these items are used for here. You can also use, some tables of stuff, tables as well in those areas. So over here we've got some computer items. Usually there is a spot or two in the house where there is some sort of computer setup. This can either be in like a bedroom or something like a kid's gaming area, or it could be like the family computer. And there's obviously multiple styles here. You're always going to want to couple one of these towers with one of these displays. You can also have this display by itself because back in the day, computers were actually just one big box with a screen on it. And then there's also this laptop if you don't really want to commit to a large computer. So there's also this radio that's good to stick here and there. You could even place that in the kitchen. A telephone, you could also place that in the kitchen. We've got televisions and some couches. So I'm going to start by placing a couch. Usually, this is a good safe step. I'm not quite sure exactly where I want to place this. Maybe I'll place it right by this window here. Sort of fill the space in, start expanding into the house. So I'll just OCD thing, I'm just going to sort of center it on that wall just so it doesn't look too out of place. Let's also put a small table here. Let's use this one. I'm going to place that right here, sort of near the doorway, but it'll work. Actually, no, I'll place it here. We'll put a coat rack by the doorway. And then, let's see, I might move it out just a little. No, I'll leave it right there. I also need to place a TV somewhere. That's usually something that's found inside a living room. I would place this large plasma TV, but there isn't enough wall space for that. So it actually does require quite a bit of wall space. You can set it up on a table like this. I sort of improvised before, and what you can do is you can sort of merge this television and this computer screen. So you stick the computer screen in the back and use it sort of as a stand for the television, because this currently doesn't have a stand on it. It's sort of meant to be mounted onto the wall. But so in this situation, I don't really have enough wall space to put the television, so I'm just going to use this old boxy one and stick it right there, sort of as if the person on the couch was watching TV. So, as I mentioned before, let's put the coat rack by the door. That's always a good thing to have in your house, especially near the doorway. We can also put a wardrobe by the door. Now, this is in the bedroom section, but pretty much the thought behind this is it's a place for coats. Usually, every house I've been into in real life has had some sort of wardrobe by the front door. So this is definitely not out of place. And if you need to fill up the space, which it would look pretty bare without it. We can just place that there. And, potentially we could put some item clothes spawns in there, when we're getting close to putting the items down for the map. So that definitely works out. In terms for filling up the rest of the space, there's not much more to do. It's possible we could put a lamp down. Let's put this tall lamp here. And we could put it, let's see, in the corner. Sort of keep it out of the way, but, still sort of there. Keeps us from just having a blank, living area. And also, as probably the last thing we'll do for this hangout area is let's put this poster down. Not sure why it's called a poster actually. It seems more like a painting. And also, as you see, this doesn't quite fit, so I'm going to take advantage of the new scaling tools, and I will scale it down to this smaller picture, and we'll just leave it there. That actually looks quite decent. And it's hard to even tell that it was scaled unless, of course, you know what the original looked like. So it of course works there. Alright, so another room that is sometimes incorporated in houses is what I'm going to call a utility room. So this room usually includes clothes dryer, clothes washer, tub, and sometimes a divider, depending on if you feel like you need privacy for the room, because I guess there is a tub. So I guess if you want to section it off, you could do that. That's definitely not necessary though. So there is one of these spaces for the rooms like this, and that is right here. Now, of course, you could use this for whatever you want. This could be a bedroom. This could be some sort of closet that you create. This could even be the kitchen. But I've seen it before. I think in PEI it uses it this way. This is actually used as some sort of utilities room. So I'll just do the same here. And it's pretty simple. You just place these down. You can line them up against the wall. And let's rotate it here. Gosh dang it. I accidentally rotated it a little too far. I let go and it moved just a little smidgen more. Move it against the wall. Copy that position. Paste it onto that one using Control B and Control N. And then I will move this one beside it. Oh, I rotated it a little too far. So usually you're going to want these either like right close to each other like this, which actually does kind of look a little weird. So I would suggest maybe spacing them apart a little bit. Of course, you can do what you want, but usually those are going to be involved. And maybe I will put the divider in. The room does look kind of bare. There's just a lot of empty space. So what I can do is I can put the divider here, sort of as if the person taking a shower in the tub or whatever can have a little bit of privacy. And of course, don't exactly block off this area. The player can still get in here through the window or just go around the divider. So, this definitely works out as a viable room option. Another thing that you can find in a utilities room is a sink sometimes. I might just do that right now. You guys definitely don't have to do this, but that is usually found in modern utility rooms these days, just as a good place to maybe wash up after you've done your laundry or something. I'm not sure, but it definitely works. Nobody's going to criticize it. It's not going to look weird. And of course, this is an optional room. Not every house is going to have this. But, if you need some of that extra space filled, this is definitely an option. Alright, so moving into bedrooms. That's one of the last really common rooms that are found in a house. So usually the bedrooms for this house are going to be found upstairs. As I mentioned, you could potentially put a bedroom down there. And you really could put a bedroom wherever you want in this house. It might be a little weird if you put it in some of the rooms, but you really can do whatever. But let's make this one a bedroom. So pretty much one of the common things found in a bedroom is a bed and then some sort of wardrobe to keep the clothes in. And then there's also this shelf here that's optional, but it's always a good idea as well. And then you can use one of these tables as sort of a nightstand. And then there is this small lamp here. I can't remember which lamp this is, and it's not telling me. I don't know why. I think it's lamp number. Let's see. That's lamp number. I think it's lamp number 2. It's one of them. Just try it out. You'll figure it out. So let's place the master bed here. This is generally used for 2 people or just one person with a big bed. Either way works. And I'll try to center it in the room a bit. Actually, I'll sort of center it on this wall right here. I'll leave a little bit of a gap, but I'm going to leave enough room right there for a nightstand, because that is a common thing to have in a bedroom. So I'll put this nightstand here and center it a little bit on the wall, give the person enough room to get out of bed a little bit. And I'll grab this lamp here and I'll put it on the nightstand, and there's a book for them to read. So let's add this wardrobe in here, and that's pretty much it for the bedroom. There's really not much more to put in here. If it's a kid's bedroom, you could put toys on the ground, such as chess, sand castles, as sort of like playhouses. Obviously, you're not expecting them to have sand in their room. Um, but yeah, also you could put, well, okay, let's make a kid's bedroom over here, and I'll show you something cool I thought about. I'm not sure how it'll work. Alright, so the next room I'm going to make is going to be a bunk bedroom. This is generally used for children's room. I'll reserve the room in the middle as another lounge room. I'll put maybe the computer stuff in there. But let's start arranging this kid's room. I'm going to use the same wardrobe. I'll just copy paste that and place a copy of that over here. And we're going to do something a little different with this room. We're going to add some children's toys around on the floor, and this will just emphasize the fact that kids are actually living in this room. Without it, I mean, you can sort of tell already because they've got, a bunk bed, and that's generally a children's thing. But, I'll just place the kids' toys in the room anyway, just as an option that you guys can always add to your map. So I also am putting a bedside table. I'm not going to put a lamp on it. I'll just leave it there. That's actually, I'll scoot it out a little more, maybe to emphasize the border of the room, because it does sort of blend into this hallway here. It is kind of awkward having these rooms here because there's really no barrier between that and the hallway. So, but see, the thing is, people are going to see it as normal. They're not really going to see it as awkward at all. So it'll definitely work. As for some of the toys, there's some obvious things like the chessboard. Obviously, kids could play with that. I'm going to put it at an odd angle just to seem like it has been in use. Putting things at right angles that should be in use often is not usually a good thing. That is also why I put the chairs at odd angles, because it's not realistic to think that every time somebody uses it, they're going to put it back exactly how it was. That's just not going to happen. Another thing you guys can do is you can take one of these houses, and this is actually going to take advantage of the new scaling feature. And what you can do is you can scale this down. And pretty much what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to treat it like a miniature dollhouse. This is something that immediately came to mind once I found out that scaling was a thing. And pretty much I'm just going to scale it down, place it maybe next to this wall, and we can use this as a dollhouse now. And of course, this will show up. It'll be freaking tiny, and as you can see, most of the detail is still kept. Now, of course, if you really wanted to get into detail, you could decorate the inside of this house. I mean, you could put rooms, you could put kitchens and all that stuff, and that'll all be visible while playing. So it just depends on, the amount of detail you want to put into this. But you could definitely can do this as something for these rooms. So that's pretty much it for the kids' bedroom. Pretty much the only area of this house that we haven't decorated is the stairway and also this room right here. So, in terms of the stairways, usually stairways are really just left bare. You really don't have to do much. Something you could do is use one of these posters and put it on the stairway just to make it a little more interesting if you really care about that. But generally, they are left bare. Other things you could do is you could put some sort of side table at the top of the stairs, maybe put a couple books on it and a lamp. That would be another way to sort of decorate the space. But generally, they're not decorated. So, another thing that you can use in the bedrooms that I actually didn't use is a shelf. And thinking about it now, I will actually put a shelf at the top of these stairs. And I'm not going to bother populating it with books just because I don't have the time for that. But you can definitely put a few books. I wouldn't make it like a library unless that is really going for the style of your house. But that's always an option there as well. And pretty much this will just break up, the whole feel of having an empty stairway. Even though it's not on the stairway itself, it'll still, break up the clean white stairway look and make it look like it's been used a bit more. Okay, so moving on to this next room, I sort of said I would use it as another lounge room, and I am. So we're gonna put in a table in here, and we're gonna actually make this a gaming station for somebody in the household. So I'm going to snug it up to the wall here. I may even make two of these depending on what I want to do. One will probably be fine though. And I'll put it sort of near the window, but not quite, just because it looks the best there. And I'll use this metal chair to match the table. That's generally a good thing to do, matching the tables with the chairs. Sadly, there is only one metal chair though, so if you use a metal table, and you want to follow that rule, sort of, you only are limited to one type of chair. So that's too bad, but it definitely works. There's enough to work with that you should be fine. I'm actually going to make this a dual monitor setup just for the kicks and gigs. There's really no point to doing this, just to show that the people that were living here were more of serious gamers. Really, that's the only reason I would see of having a dual monitor setup, besides just convenience. I'm also going to place these monitors at angles that are complementary towards each other, sort of like the person in the middle can view them both at comfortable angles. And I'm also going to angle the tower here at sort of an off angle as well, just to give it, again, the impression that it's been used. Now, there are a few more things we can do with this area to make it feel, more filled up. It is pretty empty right now. We definitely don't want to leave it just like that. So there are these filing cabinets here, and these are going to be used more for office spaces inside your house. Generally, they're used in like research buildings and hospitals, but you definitely can use them inside houses as well. So I'm going to simulate a home office here, maybe place a couple of these, and make maybe like a stack of them here, maybe four. And I can sort of line them up with this desktop table area and sort of make it seem like a nice homey office here. Also, if you're going to do the office feel, you can also add another lamp that is definitely not going to be out of place. If I can select it here. Okay, so let's place this lamp right here, maybe provide a little light on the table there. So heading back over to our items, there's not much more to place. That room is also still a little empty, but that's fine. Maybe one more thing we could place in there is this smaller chair. That's always, well, that's rarely a problem. Placing these chairs here and there in open areas like this, it's generally not a problem, and it definitely fits well. So yeah, that's pretty much every area is pretty much filled with this house. A few more things that you can add here and there. There's a newspaper. You can really place this anywhere. You could put it on the kitchen countertop. You can put it at the table. I'm going to probably lay it there. Sort of like somebody was reading their morning news and sort of left the paper there. I'll also place this telephone. Let's place it. Let's place it here. Sort of accessible place throughout the house. Probably not the best to place it behind the TV, but that doesn't really matter. Let's also place some of these lights and this clock. It's always a good idea to have a clock inside your house, just because so many people don't actually use these. It's a good idea to have them because what kind of house doesn't have a clock in it? and it really doesn't do much besides just breaking up, the whole wall, the blank wall feeling. Puts a little more detail in there. Also, something else is these lights. They're definitely not used everywhere. Usually, they're used in a scientific sort of context, but you can use them in these houses. And the way you're going to want to do that is by placing them on the ceiling, orienting them the way you want to. It's usually important to line these up in the middle of the room because if you don't do that, it could seem a little weird. So I'm going to line it up based on the window frame here. Once you've lined it up, you can copy and paste that to however far you want. And I am again going to line it up based on the middle of this kitchen room here that is from about here to here. So that should generally be in the middle, and this also just adds another layer of detail. It's definitely not necessary though, and I wouldn't put them all around the house. It doesn't seem weird not to have them in these rooms, so you definitely don't need it. It's just a little bit of extra work. So something else this house doesn't have is actually a garage, and I've got a few items for that. I'm going to pick out a house that does have a garage. Let's use this one. It's got a separate garage of its own. I'm not going to detail the entirety of this house. I'll just do the garage for you though. So a garage is another common room in a house. Only some of them have them, of course. If you guys don't have a garage in your house and you do want a spot for a car, you can place a bit of road here, and that'll actually work well as a garage. Not really a garage, just a parking space. So we do have these two types of shelves, shelf number one and shelf number two. We also have this propane bottle. Those are generally the things you find inside a garage. So it's always a good idea to leave room for some cars. Of course, if it's not that type of garage, you guys don't have to do that. But if you do want to have a natural car spawn inside this garage, make sure you leave enough room. So definitely, if you're going to use this type of shelf, you probably won't have enough room for that car in there. But, of course, that's not a problem if you want it to be that way. So some of the stuff that you can put in a garage, one of them is a propane tank. This sort of shelf is definitely recommended. It adds a lot of areas for you to hide items. You can also put like the propane tank in there. Also, something I should have thought of before is cardboard. So you can also decorate this area with these cardboard boxes. You can like pile them up, um, do whatever with them, arrange them at odd angles, stack them on top of each other, do all sorts of stuff with those. Make it look like, it's a bit cluttered, but lived in. And also, guys, just if you were wondering, they actually did, Nelson change the texture of these, and pretty much they used to be like open, but now they're closed. And the reason is because if you shoot them with the destructible map thing, they will open up for you. So right now they look closed, but if a player actually shoots these or hits these, they will open up and it'll seem more natural. You can also hide items inside them, and they do not have hitboxes, so players can walk through these. So they're not providing any sort of, climbable area or obstruction to the player. Another thing you can have inside the garage is a radio. That's another common thing to have. In terms of items you can place in here, you can place all sorts of things. There's metal scrap, there's gas tanks, there's flares, there's smoke grenades. You could put military gear in here. I mean, it really all depends. Be creative. And you can also put other types of shelves in here. You could put a wardrobe in here. You could put shelf number 3 in here. You could put, a dishwasher in here, sort of like they've thrown it out. Or, clothes washer, a clothes dryer. All of those things would be appropriate inside a garage. So truthfully, inside a garage you can put all sorts of random crap. You can just throw stuff in there. It's not going to feel out of place. So anyway, guys, there's not much more you can do. I did place these glass pieces here. You could decorate your windows as if, they were broken at some point. This is obviously going to take a bit of detail and a bit of working on. I accidentally turned that a bit. But yeah, you can place these glass here. I think they do have a hitbox, but they can be broken. So they're definitely not permanent as well. So, definitely consider placing these in here. If you don't place these in here, it just seems like a normal house. If you place these in here, it seems like it has been damaged in some way. So it really depends on what you want people to think about the house and the situation it's been in. So you may want to save this for like a rundown house that's really just full of cardboard boxes, crates, and spider webs. Also, if you guys didn't realize what this was, this is oven number 2. It's generally not used in these more modern type houses. It's generally used in sort of a log cabin house, and there are lodges. So, besides houses, this sort of stylization can sort of be applied to a lodge. And so, lodge number 1 definitely could take it. Lodge number 2 definitely could take it. Lodge number 3, more of a log cabin type house, would definitely fit using that stove. And lodge number 4 is a freaking huge building. And so you can decorate all of these in similar sort of ways. So the trick to being a good map maker is not only knowing the standardized tricks, but also knowing how to apply them. So definitely this type of decoration is great, but feel free to apply that to whatever situation you feel is necessary. So, as I go on with this series, I'm going to be going over most types of buildings. I'm going to be going over houses for sure, most of the buildings like post office, metal worker, stuff like that, a hardware, gun shop, probably some of the offices as well. So stay tuned if you guys want to learn how to decorate better and get some ideas about what to detail your maps with. So anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and please like if you did, and subscribe if you want to see some more. I will see you all later.
Listen.